This is a podcast from the Queen City Podcast Network.
Artstar, TBJ, Professor Andy, Jackass Joe.
Nerd school in session, bringing knowledge, no aggression.
Nerd School Podcast.
I like nerd things.
History for Jerks.
I consider myself an anime nerd.
Nerd School Podcast.
I just started windbreaker today.
History for Jerks.
Coincidentally, Andy broke wind today. Welcome to a very special episode or spin-off series, sub-series of Nerd School. This is Nerd School Tackle Star Wars. And I'm here. This is Joe, and I'm again joined with Professor Andy. And,
hello.
And the beautiful Artstar, the Ninja Nerd. Hello. And we have a special guest because we have come across someone named Carrington who is new to the Star Wars world. Welcome, Carrington, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I know nothing about Star Wars. Well, okay, I know a little bit, like a tiny bit. I know the basics.
Okay,
yeah, so we have to establish that. What do
that's
you
what we're
know
here to establish, because we
currently?
were under the impression at first that you knew Zip and you weren't aware of it and haven't seen anything, but that's not exactly true.
So
Right.
I know there was like the Disney XD like Star Wars series, like was it like Clone Wars, Jedi, something like that. I don't know. But I watched maybe five episodes of that. I think the main character was like Ezra or something.
Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, so that's not Clone
Sure.
Wars. That's Rebels, I think, right?
Rebels. It was Rebels.
Star Wars Rebels.
It was
okay.
Rebels. That was
That's-
What
really
an
good.
interesting place to start.
Yeah, so I think did you see the first couple episodes or just some random episodes with other people?
I think it was just random episodes, but like I watched maybe 5 or 6 in a row and I
Okay.
liked it, but that was
Okay.
it.
And
And that
so
was years ago.
can we ask you, like, what prompted you to watch those? And then what made you not watch anymore? What made you stop?
Honestly, I think because I remember it was nighttime. I was just like, well, this is on. So I watched it, and I guess it was like some sort of marathon Disney was doing where it's just like episodes continuously.
Okay.
But I liked it, and then I watched the next day, but that was pretty much it.
Okay. So
But it was good.
you knew Ezra Bridger and some of those. There's like
There's like a green girl or like an orange girl
yeah.
or something like that.
And there's a
Syndulla.
droid, yeah, Syndulla.
Yeah.
There's a little droid, Chopper, which
yeah.
is sort of R2D2-esque, if you haven't heard. But
Oh, so
so
not Chopper from One Piece. Okay.
yeah, so the only thing you know is that of Star Wars. So, but you do know the basics, like you know what a lightsaber is.
Yeah, I know Chewbacca and
Okay.
R2D2,
Okay.
BB-8.
So being somebody who doesn't know anything about it, but you know those, how do you know? Like, you've seen them around, or you've heard somebody say Chewbacca and seen that at parties?
Well,
But it's
my-
also probably because it's in it's in the meta now, so
yeah.
everyone
And
knows.
then my dad was a big Star Wars person. Like he watched it a lot when we were kids, but I never watched it because like I thought it was for boys. It's not for boys, but I thought it was. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's R2D2. I know him. You know?
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's an unfortunate amount of boys who think it is just for them, and to create sort of a toxic fandom around it, which can be
Not
off-putting. I
just
imagine.
boys. Not just boys. It's people who consider
Adult men.
themselves
Yeah.
the superior race who thinks it's just for their race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
There's a lot of people
amazed.
upset, yeah.
I am amazed how people talk about diversity in a show that's about basically alien races and how
Yeah.
they get upset with people of color.
Yeah, there can be a walrus
Hey.
guy, but there can't be a black guy. Yeah, like a
Right.
black stormtrooper. Yeah, it makes no sense. It's ridiculous and awful. But I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that your dad was into it and didn't like I don't want to say force you to like it, but like
Mhm.
introduce it to you or like,
Oh, no, well, he got me into other things. He got me into like DC for a little bit there.
okay,
Like I would watch him play like the Arkham series, like when he would play that. So like I knew a little bit,
okay.
but Star Wars just wasn't the one that I got into. I just thought that one was because everything felt old to me as a kid. I was like, oh, that's old. I don't want to watch old things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense because
we
you're
are
way
an old
younger.
thing.
Yeah, that's true. We are old guys. So the three of us fellas on here are old guys. Like we're all approaching 50 if we're not already 50.
Yeah.
And Carrington is very young and like right out of
Mm.
college, mid 20s. So to me, it's interesting. I guess just the fact that Star Wars keeps going. Like when we were kids, it was a new thing. Like we were little
Mhm.
and it was like boom, this and it was the best there was as far as sci-fi goes. Like there wasn't much that they could do. So in fact, I'm going to allude to another podcast that kind of gave me an idea or made me think we should not do this, but it's Nicole Byer has one called Art, you know what that's called, that podcast?
With her and
Lauren Lapkus, and they
Lauren
watch
Lapkus.
they watch nerd
I
stuff for the
forgot
first
what it is.
time. And so they watched neither one of them had ever seen
Mhm.
Star Wars. And so I listened to them and then they talked to an expert who loves Star Wars after they watched it. They were both like, what's the big deal? Like we knew it was a big deal and we both
Mhm.
purposely didn't watch it for a long time. And they both hated it because they were like, it was lame, like it's so shitty in the 70s. But I think that's because they didn't grow up with it. So I think it's
Mhm.
different now. So you're at risk to being like, eh, because you got
See,
compared to today.
It's called
my
newcomers.
thing,
Newcomers,
I
yes.
think I think the reason I haven't watched Star Wars because I always wanted to, I know I'll like it too much. I like nerd things. So I think I'll like it a little too much.
Okay.
And
So what we want
what do you consider? What do you consider liking it too much?
Well, I mean, I'm a big anime fan. So like One Piece is my thing right now. That's like over 1,000 episodes. And I watched that very, very
How
quickly.
far are you into it?
I'm caught up on the anime and the manga.
So when did you start it?
You're caught up on
Oh,
1,000 episodes. Okay.
When did you
yeah,
start it?
1,100.
When
Um,
did you
I think I
what?
started December 2022, I
December
think.
20?
And
So
I caught up I caught
I
up to like episode 1,000 like December 2023 or
I
something like
consider
that.
myself an anime nerd
Hmm.
somewhat. So like certain anime, like I'm into Boruto, Naruto, all of them.
Yeah.
So like I binged Boruto, and I got to the
Mhm.
point where I was caught up, and now I'm doing the manga. But like
Mhm.
One Piece, like I like One Piece, and I've talked to another coworker who's also he's caught up in One Piece. He reads the manga, but I'm like I'll
Ooh.
start it, Josh.
Mm.
So I'll start it, and I'm like, okay, I love this show. I'm watching it, and I'm like, right now, I sit at like episode 40. But like every so
Okay.
often, like if it's on,
Okay.
I'll watch
40
it.
of 1,100.
Of
Of
1100?
1,100?
Right,
Okay.
right. But here's the thing. She said she started in December of 2022.
Yeah.
Um, I've been trying to watch One Piece probably maybe like a couple before, like probably like 2000, 2020.
Yeah.
2020 is when I
Okay.
probably tried to start watching it. And that's where I'm at. But then
So
there are
it's so
other,
it's just so I'm clear. So it's still going. There's
it's still
Yes.
1,100
going.
episodes.
It's still going.
Yes.
It's
And
still
where
It's
do
how
still
you
long?
going.
How long is each episode?
Like 20
Like
something
average,
minutes.
yeah. 20,
And
20
when
some
did it
minutes.
start? How long ago did it start?
I want
Long
to
time ago.
say like early 2000s, late 90s,
Okay.
and where does
as
something
far as
like
like the
this
anime.
is it just online? Is it just YouTube or is it on
Yeah,
a
it's
channel?
on
YouTube,
Netflix, Hulu,
Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll. Yeah,
Oh,
Crunchyroll's like anime Netflix.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Crunchyroll it's called?
But so
yeah,
what I was going to say is,
I'm
but
learning.
I watch other anime where I'm watching Kaiju number 8, which I referenced in the last
yes, it's
episode.
so good.
I'm caught
It's
up on
so
that.
good.
I just started Windbreaker today. which is only 10
Mhm.
episodes. So like I'll start them and
Well, it's coincidentally Andy broke win today.
It was a race to see who made the fart joke, and Joe won.
Oh my god. That
I
was a
just
good
find it
one.
ironic that there are 1,100 pieces of One Piece.
Yeah, it's about a
Yeah.
one-piece swimming suit?
You're actually very right. No.
No?
We don't know what the One Piece is. We don't know what the heck the One Piece is, honestly.
Luffy's always just saying he wants to be king of the
He
pirates.
want-
And
yeah.
he goes around meeting people who some of them he fight, some of them he fight and they join his crew.
Yeah.
So
Why do you guys think anime is seems to be like it's such its own thing? Like what sets it apart from regular cartoons? Like what's the thing that's so like people go nuts for anime? Like people are anime junkie. Obviously, Carrington, you watch
Yeah.
1,100 episodes in 2 years. What's
I
the
think it's
appeal?
stories.
yeah, honestly just the stories. Because like I found like Western cartoons, like they have like the same levels, like Avatar. Like if you've seen Avatar, imagine that, but like modified different ways. Like that epicness is sort of what I get when I watch anime.
Okay. So it's sort of like advanced storylines, like more, would you say like more adult stories or just
It could
mystery
be.
type
Some of
stories?
them.
But then it's the because it's in the East. It's
Mhm.
almost like how we had this discussion last episode about kamikazes and stuff like that.
Yeah. The culture.
So a lot
Mhm.
of the stories, some of the stories sometimes will be straight out of their folklore. But then they're like
Mhm.
Dragon Ball is basically the Monkey King. But it expounds it's so much that they delve into it a lot more, and it's not always like sometimes
Yeah.
cartoons in the West come off a little lazy in their storytelling,
And it's always quick. Like
but it's also
very
just
quick.
boom boom explosion. Whereas like they may have like that one scene or that one episode where it's nothing but filler. Filler in anime a lot of times can be just as good as the actual main
As the
story.
actual show. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why One Piece has a lot of filler episodes, from what I understand.
It's 1,100.
but-
They
Well,
gotta have filler
It's
episodes.
not too much filler. It's not too much. And if you want to watch One Piece, there's a thing called One Piece, which cuts out all the filler. And so that's
Really?
good too. Yeah.
All
So
right,
it cuts
so-
out all the unnecessary stuff.
Did you say One Pace it's called?
One pace? Yeah. So it speeds up the pacing because in the beginning, it's really slow. You really have to push through it. But then once you get past like the 100 episode mark,
Right.
then
That's
you
what I
sort of
heard.
get
That's what I heard. Like that's why I keep slogging
100 episodes and you're good.
because I don't.
I've
want
been
to
having
give up.
trouble getting through 3 seasons of Daredevil, and
But-
Me too, yeah.
I know I can't sit there and watch. Like I say, Boruto. Like I
Mhm.
started watching it, I got up to like episode 184, and then for some reason I stopped. And then next thing I know,
yeah.
I started watching it again, and I want to say I got up to the end before they went on a hiatus, probably in like 2 weeks. So
See,
I
and the
watched.
thing
Uh-huh.
with like Boruto and Naruto, if you combine the Naruto Shippuden, and then Boruto, that's roughly how many episodes One Piece is now. Like,
Mhm.
because I think Naruto is 700, Boruto is
Right.
almost 300.
Right.
Wow, this is cool. You found an anime buddy, Art. I feel like Art wants
Oh,
to
yeah.
talk about this
I
stuff
love
all the
anime.
time, and we're all just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So,
just for perspective, there are total 768 episodes of The Simpsons, and that's been
yeah,
on
that feels like a
for,
lot. Yeah,
for 30 years.
since '89. Yeah. What is the difference between? I always thought manga, not manga.
That's printed.
Manga.
Anime is
Yeah.
animated.
Manga. Yeah.
Oh, manga.
And most of the time it's
manga's
like
printed, and
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that manga is print version of anime.
pretty much, yeah. And sometimes, like with some shows, it's like
Different.
with One Piece for the most part, it's frame by frame sometimes. But with
Yeah.
other shows, like the manga will be completely different than the anime.
And
Like
Carrington,
comic
But-
books are different from the movies.
yeah.
Exactly. Like
Cool.
comic books to movies.
All right, I frame a reference.
Yeah, that's Star Wars anime, Jeff.
Does the
Yeah, so-
original Scott
There
Pilgrim
is one.
books count as
Yes.
anime or manga?
I consider it one. Some people don't, but I do. I consider it anime. It's on Crunchyroll, I think. So
Okay, because it's definitely in that style at least.
yeah, some
Um,
people do, some people don't. To each his own.
and so there's already
So-
Star Wars manga.
Manga.
Manga?
Manga.
Umanga, like the
Topanga?
pro wrestler
Manga.
Umaga was
Yeah.
pronounced Umanga by William Regal.
Mungo McMichael?
Closer to that, yes.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Carrington, I bet
But,
Carrington has no idea who Mungo McMichael is.
Yeah.
I haven't a clue.
I barely do. So, the one question I have about it is after 1,100 episodes, I mean, does it feel like it's trying to get to a conclusion, or is it just gonna go
right
saga?
now, okay, so right now I want to say yes, because where I am in the manga and anime, all the answers from maybe episode 100 are coming back now. We're like, oh wait, that was actually important. I skipped those episodes, and you're like, oh, I should not have skipped those episodes. Everything's sort of just coming up now. And Oda, who wrote the series, he says that this is the final saga. So we
Okay.
have at least 5 more years, but it's the final. It's the final saga.
How hard is it? I guess to remember
Well,
what happened
okay.
in episode 310 when you're on episode 1020.
Well, look at it as immersion. If you're
Mhm.
so invested into
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like your brain is holding on to it. You know,
And
It's you read 700 issues of Spider-Man, you'll remember some stuff, and you'll forget some other things.
I forget a lot. I definitely forget a lot. And then
Okay.
my friend will say, "Oh, this happened." I was like, "Oh, okay, nice to know."
So it just seems like the characters are drawn more like video games or like a cartoon or something. I'm trying to think like because I just looked up Star Wars manga and
Mhm.
just to see like looks just like Star Wars except they look like video games.
well,
Like,
there's X-Men, there's a Spider-Man.
yeah. So it's just that
So-
style of character. It's like the not realistic, but it's not
Mhm.
And, like,
cartoonish.
is there a reason, and this could just be perception, and I know there's wildly different, like there's variations in style, but there's so much of a similar aesthetic
yeah, I think that's
that
what it
seems to
is.
be the through line through like a whole lot, like various different anime projects. That is that something that is aspired to, like they tried to make everything kind of look the similar and then experiment within that
Yeah,
with
I think for the most part, because there's been a lot of new CGI sort of anime. So like Trigun Stampede, so like that's based off Trigun. Like the anime style is completely different, but it still has the same feel. I think so.
Okay.
Like it still stays within the same realm of like art style wise, but every manga has like the different style.
yeah, it's
Okay.
might just be my discernment is not quite developed to
Manga.
say, all right, I can tell that's this one and that is that one, 'cause it's so much of it still kind of looks like the only stuff I ever really watched was like Voltron back when I was a kid, and
Yeah, we loved that when we
um,
were kids. Yeah.
Transor
Similar,
Z,
that's
which was a
manga, yeah.
riff on Manzinger's Z. That
Mhm.
I just like giant robots. So then when I was a kid, so anything
Yeah.
with giant robots in it, I was excited about.
Okay, so let's get this back to Star Wars. We get a little background.
Star
So
Wars,
there
yeah.
is nerddom. Like Carrington has nerd
Nerd
cred.
cred writ large.
That's a whole
yes.
nerd cred. Like you've been to Comic Cons and things, and you're into
Yeah.
you're into anime and mag. So should be good for you, but you're new to Star Wars. So
Mhm.
we, as the other three on the nerd school, need to figure out there's a lot of arguments Star Wars nerds have about the best way to introduce somebody new. I had the opportunity, neither Art or Andy have children, so I had the opportunity when my son was born in 2005. My first thought was, oh shit, I got to figure out how to introduce Star Wars to him. What's the best way to do it?
Your absolute first thought as soon as you found out you
Yep.
were having a child.
As soon as I
is,
knew it was a child, actually, I will admit it was sexism too for me. As soon as I heard it was a boy, I was like, I got to figure out, what Star Wars. And I didn't think of that with my daughter. Although by the time I had my daughter, I was like, we're having 2 kids. I don't know what the fuck. How am I gonna do this? I didn't think about anything, and then I realized nothing I thought about mattered with a kid. So at this point, I was like, well, here's my second chance to not screw it up. But she likes a little bit of Star Wars. She's more into Marvel and all that. But she's not really into Star Wars, and now my son's not as much either, even though he was an expert for a while. Anyway, that said, but so I introduced to him, but when he was little, I thought, well, this isn't going to mean anything to Carrington, but for the listeners, I thought the prequels are better for a kid because it was very cartoony at that point. In 2005, those came out in 99 or whatever. So I already knew about those, and they had a character named Jar Jar Binks. That, I don't know if you've heard of this, Carrington, Jar Jar Binks.
Jar
You know what
Jar,
that is?
yeah.
You know people hate Jar Jar Binks?
Is that the one who
Don't-
voted, or is it the alien looking dude?
Okay, we won't ruin it. I guess I
Yeah,
can't. We don't
Okay.
wanna-
We don't want to.
I know we
There's
hate
so
him,
rare
though.
that
I
you
do
not
know
have
that.
preconceived notions.
But
So-
it felt more like a kid's thing. So I let him
Yeah.
watch them in chronological order. And I had a lot of people, nerds. I remember, I think Andy was one of those pissed at me, and other people were like, "You idiot, you're going to ruin it for me. You need to start the Machete Order episode 4 or 5." And there's all these schools
It's
of
basically,
thought.
is it release order or timeline of the story
But
order
the
that would
Machete
work
Order
best?
is not that either one.
Not exactly,
A
but
mix of 'em,
it's
so-
closer to.
And we'll get into that later. So my thought was, Carrington, we were originally going to just do this with you, but then we discovered Becca, who's another person we work with, who also said she's unaware of much Star Wars at all. And so we thought, oh, we got two people. One can do one order and one can do another order.
So it was someone else who was in the Star Wars who knew a lot about the High Republic. I thought that was Becca who knew about the High Republic.
No, that's Athena. Athena is
right.
very into Star
Athena,
Wars.
yeah, she knows the
That
High
makes
Republic.
sense.
So Athena can even jump on and help us teach if we needed to. So, I mean, the more the nerds, the merrier. You know, we're going to just let's see how many nerds we
Like
get.
I've
Nerd
realized
overflow.
that my wife barely remembers any Star Wars. I thought she
Really?
knew more about it
Wow.
with the kids is all, but it's like I was just saying, oh yeah, we're talking to folks who haven't seen Star Wars. Like I don't remember any of it. I don't
Oh,
know a lot. So like maybe we can bring Susie on as
yeah,
well.
we're gonna have to just like expound this, like just the whole Star Wars sub-series, and I don't think we have to like stay really like we don't have to like, oh, we're only doing this and
Okay,
can't say a
right.
word about this. I think we can be flexible. It's just a
Yeah.
fun, it's just for fun, but we want to witness you
Funsies.
learning Star Wars and asking questions and seeing what you think of it as a newbie compared to us,
Mhm.
why we like it. And I sometimes wonder, do I like it anymore? Andy, I think you've soured on some of the newer ones. You're kind of fuck Star, Star
Yeah,
Wars
the I don't have the excitement I once had. I mean,
Mhm.
when I loved the original trilogy when we were kids because that's who it was for. It was for us when we were kids.
And then we had all the little
And-
action figures as kids in
Yes.
the 70s and 80s, and
Yeah,
just
and
everything
then-
was Star Wars. Every kid
then
knew
there-
every
99, the early 2000s, the prequels come out again for kids, but the adult nerds had that group it was
Grew up
for
with
initially
it.
thought it was still for them, and there is all sorts of when nerds get angry,
It's one of those things now.
so
I feel
pathetic
like-
sometimes. It's just
I feel like
Like-
Star Wars now is getting to a point, and this is kind of, what me and Andy has been kind of alluding to you as you're watching Doctor Strange and things. Certain things in Star Wars now, they sound better or read better than they do if you're actually given visual representation of moving visual representation. Like I'm watching like the new Acolyte series. It's an okay series, but it's one of those things where like if I didn't have to see it and I was reading about it, it would be way better. Like I've read Darth Plagueis, which is like early High Republic stuff dealing with like what's his name?
this is like 1,000 years before the
No,
main.
it's not 1,000 years. It's
100 years, something like that.
Yeah. But it's
It's-
like, but it's one of those. But these are things that are now becoming canon. But it's like reading some of this stuff, like reading it, or if you're listening to like an audiobook, it seems it's much more engaging than if now because you're having to deal with adding more fan service. Like, oh, we need to show this. Like everyone's like, oh, is Darth Raven going to be the villain of the Acolyte. Who's going to be this one? And like, oh, I can't wait to see this. You know, there's I forget her name. Her name is Vanestra.
Yes.
She's a Jedi who has a lightsaber that's a whip, and this is like something this is from 100 years,
What?
100 years before the prequels.
Oh.
But like that, just like now, they just found out that Rey's yellow lightsaber is just basically a color choice. It's nothing super significant about it because back in the day, the Jedi lightsaber could have been whatever lightsaber color they kind of sort of chose. So it's like they're
Yeah.
rewriting it, but then it's also making it so like older fans are now going to be like, well, that's not true because it's supposed to be this. How dare they?
Yeah,
How
like people,
dare they make
people
Star
are
Wars fun?
Yeah, supposedly there's a Wookiee Jedi, and everybody's upset because George Lucas said there would
He
never
is.
be a
And
Wookiee
this
can't
dude-
be a Jedi or whatever.
That's I mean,
What?
and
Yeah.
use the force
What?
push. I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that there's a Wookiee Jedi. I watched the first episode of Acolyte so far. I like it. Also, people are, I think, upset because the lead is an African American female. Probably. I'm assuming. I heard somebody being upset.
And also
Really?
they made a joke. They made a joke in
I
an
think they're
interview
upset
about it being the
No, I
gay
mean-
Star Wars, and so people are upset about that as well. So
I have not seen any Acolyte stuff. All I've seen about the Acolyte is that Carrie-Anne Moss is in it. That's the only thing that's been advertised that I've seen. So
that laugh,
um,
Carrie-Anne Moss is in it. Yeah, she's in it.
yeah, and I thought she was the star in the lead. So this is news to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think
Carrie-Anne Moss and it could, I don't know what's going to happen later, but Carrie-Anne Moss in this show is basically Sean Bean in Game of Thrones. That's all I'm saying. If you
all
know
right.
anything
I
about
know what
Game
you're
of
talking
Thrones,
about,
right?
and I'll let that go. I think a question then would be to Carrington, like, do you have a preference as to which way you think you would prefer to watch the films? Would it be in chronological order of the storyline? I mean, although we're just talking about the 9 films.
Yeah,
we're gonna leave the Rebels and stuff out of it for
Yeah,
now.
we're gonna do all the movies first before we get into any TV. Is that what we're gonna do for sure?
Yeah, I think so, because those that's the big thing.
That's the thing you should do.
And then everything else, it's I don't want to call it filler, but it does fill in blanks and stuff like that. But it's also its own story. But or would it make more sense to you to in release order so you can see the development of how the property sort of grew?
I want to see it in release order. I want to see it the same way everyone else has sort of seen it.
Okay.
Just
Us
that
old
way, because I
people.
feel like I would have. Excuse me, you guys aren't old. Because I just feel like I will enjoy it more. You know, I want to be able to say, "Oh, okay," and then maybe when I'm done, I'll watch it in chronological. But I don't really like the idea of the quality jumping back and forth. I want to see it how it was released.
Yeah, I think that's smart, and I think the cool thing about that is you can also, and we can explain to you what we were experienced when we didn't, see if you feel the same way. Like when we were your age, I think I was roughly your age, Carrington, probably when the prequels came out, the 1, 2, and 3, probably. So we can see, but of course I watched the, of course, 4, 5, and 6 when I was a kid. So which you will do all this as a 25-year-old or whatever you are. So yeah, I think that's cool. So we'll start with A New Hope.
Star Wars Episode 4.
Episode 4, A New Hope.
And so to contextualize it is that just to think this at the time was the most advanced special effects in science fiction cinema.
Yeah.
And a lot, I mean, that's the other thing. Do we find the original version, or
I don't know that you can.
I mean, I own them on DVD, I think, but
I
It's
don't own a DVD player.
yeah,
Nobody has a
nobody
DVD
does
player
anymore.
yeah.
That's right.
Listen, if I had the choice, I would. If I had the choice, I would own a DVD player. But my laptop doesn't come with one on the side anymore.
Let me
They
ask,
need
do you
to
have
I
a
don't
fix
want
that.
fax
that.
machine?
I think my printer might have one.
You
Have a landline.
have a
Um,
landline, yeah.
And so, all right, so we might have to
What
use
if
the special edition version of A New Hope that
would we just
added
do
it.
whatever's on Disney Plus? Like I'm sure there's just one version on Disney Plus, right? Like,
Yeah, probably.
Bound to be.
Probably.
do you
I know-
have Disney Plus, Carrington?
Yeah, I got that.
Yes. Okay. Maybe it's on Crunchyroll. Is it on Crunchyroll?
You know what I found out? Was it yesterday or today? I was on Threads, and apparently there's this thing that people have been watching Revenge of the Sith, but then also pausing and going through the Clone Wars season 7. So that's like a thing.
Is that because does it happen in
I
tandem?
feel like maybe things that pop up in Revenge of the Sith go, I don't want to say concurrently with Clone Wars season 7, but it's supposed to have things that affect what's happening in Revenge of the Sith comes up or comes out in Clone Wars season 7.
Yeah.
Well,
As I understand it, Clone Wars does a lot to, I guess, buoy what the prequels wound up being to sort of fill in blanks and deepen the characters. And
But I'm on. What are you on? Like season 4 of Clone Wars show, or did you finish Clone Wars?
I know I'm halfway through season 5,
And
and
I'm on 3.
I'm telling you, here's what I'm loving about Clone Wars. What I love that it does. When it first came out, I was like, "Oh, that's the dumb, stupid thing for kids. Like it's a kiddie thing." In fact, it's so much that I thought it was just a kid show. It was a dumb kids version of Star Wars. I let my son watch it unattended, and then now I'm watching it and like, holy shit, they just snap people's necks and kill people. And
I
like,
want to say not Rebels. What's the one that there's one that came out? I think either after Rebels.
Bad Batch or
Bad
No,
Batch.
Bad Batch is not. It's kid friendly, but it's also like
I think it's just like Clone Wars. It's like a continuation of Clone
was
Wars.
it Clone? It was one where it was like the anime style kind of sort of seemed like it was geared towards kids.
I think that's
But
Rebels.
Is the Rebels? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's
But like-
Rebels.
But so like you're watching it and it's like, I get how people can think it's for kids, but
Yeah.
like Bad Batch, I wouldn't say like you can have kids watch it, but Bad Batch is not a kids show in my opinion.
Yeah, right. So
I-
Clone Wars is similar, but what I love about Clone Wars, my favorite episodes of Clone Wars as I'm getting through them, are the ones where they'll take. I love that they'll take some secondary character that was in the background of one of the movies, and like give that character a name and a background and a backstory and that, and then there's like a whole episode of just Bosk. There's like 3 or 4 episodes just about Bosk and Bosk's people and Bosk's planet, and Bosk was a guy in the first 3 that was just like a background bounty hunter guy that looks like a
kind of a growly, toothy lizard.
yeah, like a
man.
tooth lizard guy or whatever. And it's just like, so they take these characters that I grew up with, like in the background, we had the little figures. We had no idea who they were. Hammerhead, I know his whole family now. Like, it's all cool stuff. And so, even with the prequels, it's like this character was in the background of something in one scene. They just showed her for 1 second, and now she's got a whole story.
That was part of what was great about like in the original Star Wars. Like the toy line came out, all these characters you never heard their names in the movies, but they had names in the toys. And you know, you can get like trading cards or whatever, and they list stuff. I mean, like the word Sith does not appear in the original trilogy.
We didn't know what a Sith was.
But I remember
Well,
having like trading cards
because
when I was a kid, like Dark Lord of the Sith. What does that even mean? I don't know.
Sith had supposedly died out during the High Republic era.
Right, but the word was in like the merchandising.
Yeah.
Like and there's felt like there was more going on here than was in the films, and then nerds glommed onto that and kind of built this whole expanded universe.
Right.
Like there was
that said, there were a lot of books when we
expanded
were
the world.
kids. There were books that were written that were, I don't know if everybody even thought about what canon meant or what part of the universe. And then later on, when Disney got involved, they they came out with official canon, and certain things were now excluded, and nerds were mad because some nerds are like, I'm a book nerd and I read all these, and these are characters that
No,
I
it doesn't
love.
count.
Yeah, and now those don't count, and now there's a new canon, and that seems to always be evolving too. What's canon and what's
True.
legend,
And they're sort of
like
taking
Marvel.
some of the stuff that was disallowed and reintroducing them in different ways.
in
as
sort
I
of different
understand
ways,
it.
and kind of like MCU does with comics, call back to something that's similar or whatever, which I've learned through nerd school. And these wonderful nerds here teaching me that. But I feel like with Star Wars, I know a lot. Like Art was talking about, somebody's going back and watching that. What I've been doing is between each season of Clone Wars and I'm watching, I go back and watch the first two prequels again, just so I'm like, okay, let's context back into the movie. Because my plan was to watch, originally I was going to watch all this, that was probably 3 years ago, before the pandemic. I was going to watch the whole thing all the way through in order.
Chronological order of the story.
Yeah, so I watched Phantom Menace, and then I watched Clone Wars, and then I started watching the movie Clone Wars. Or was Clone Wars the second movie? I can't even remember. Anyway, then I realized, Jesus, it takes so fucking long to get through all 7 seasons of
Attack of the Clones was the second.
Attack of the Clones, yeah.
Clones.
And then so I started watching the Clone Wars, and then it's like, now I've forgotten what the first 2 movies were again, so I go back and watch those again. And then so in between each one, I rewatch them. And then now Acolyte came out and screwed up my whole timeline because Acolyte's before all that. So now I got to watch Acolyte and then those again. And then I'm going to just continue Clone Wars. I'm just watching that regardless. Now I'm throwing episode Atlanta in there because I like that.
I think I'm going to like Star Wars because I like when characters who are in the background get things. I like different things. I don't know. I think I'm gonna like Star Wars a little too much. I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
Well, that's what we hope, because of course we're obviously lovers of it. So it'd be kind of disappointing if you watch first one and be like, boy, that's a piece of shit. That sucked.
Well, I have a friend who loves Star Wars, and like she does hybrid. Is it the Mandalorian? That one, she does like hybrids of Mandalorian. She does hybrids of like the characters, like anime characters with that. I'm like, I feel like I would do something like that if I liked Star Wars enough. So
now when you say hybrids, is she drawing? You mean just
she like cosplays.
Oh, cosplays. Okay.
Yeah, so she has like a Sailor Mandalorian and then like
Sailor Moon Mandalorian. Okay.
Yeah, so like Sylveon from Pokemon. She has a combo of that, and it's fun.
This is cool.
Fun. Oh yeah, I've seen so many like riffs on the Mandalorian or the Boba Fett thing, and like I've seen the Boba Fett in bright pink and white colors.
She doesn't probably know who Boba Fett
is. Yeah, that's true.
That's when we were kids. Boba Fett was like the coolest guy, and you didn't know anything about him really in the first couple of movies, like till later, and then I don't know. Now there's a million things about him. So, but this sidetrack real quick, Carrington. You talk about cosplay. You're a cosplayer, right?
Yes.
And are you going to Heroes Con this year as a cosplayer?
I don't think I'm gonna go to Heroes Con this year because I just got back from MomoCon. So I'm trying to be covered from that.
What con?
MomoCon. That was in Atlanta.
Momo? MomoCon?
Yeah, it means peach. It means peach in Japanese.
Oh,
because it's in Georgia. I just learned that. But it's
that's cool.
Peach Con.
Oh my God, Carrington and Art are gonna be best friends.
You play Snap. You never noticed the peach Momoka variants. Like
I never thought about it.
I don't ever.
Somebody told me. They told me last week, and I was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
I don't look at the variants much. Do you play Marvel Snap, Carrington?
I do not.
Okay,
my dad does.
Oh, he does. Your dad's cool.
Yes.
We got to
my dad. Yeah, you guys are like the same age as my dad. I'm just like, it's like I'm talking to 3 of my dads right now.
Does your dad? Does your dad think it's weird that you're gonna get on a podcast with 3 guys his age?
I don't think he would. I don't think.
Well, we'll invite him.
Don't say
on.
it like that. We're in a podcast with people his age, because there's another person. Don't say it like that.
If my daughter was gonna get on a podcast with 3 50-year-old guys, I might be like, okay, what the hell is this?
Well, who's 50?
He knows I'm a nerd. He knows.
I'm 50 next month.
Yeah, but it's a nerd podcast.
You guys are all the same age.
Yeah, essentially. There's not
We're
really.
close. I mean, I'm 47. Art's
I'm in my
71.
prime.
Mhm.
You are Art. You are the best
Huckleberry,
looking
hey,
man.
I deny everything.
Art.
Yeah.
Art's the
Well,
greatest of all time. Okay, so we've decided we're gonna do
Release
We're
order.
in
Release
release
order.
order.
And
And-
even with the special editions, they were released before the prequels. So
Oh,
Okay.
okay, great.
that counts.
Now, if we end up getting Becca involved, are we gonna do her a different order, or should we just throw her in on the conversation?
We'll ask her what she
Okay.
prefers,
Mhm.
and we'll do it that way. Because like I kind of wanted to do one of you
Yeah.
in
One
release
way,
order,
one the other
one
way.
in the chronological order, just to kind of see what the different experience is.
Mhm.
The only
But-
problem with that is going to be then we have to watch all these movies again to talk about. But
But
I mean,
we've
I've watched
seen
them
them all
so
a million
much.
Y'all
times.
seen
Yeah.
them.
we've seen them
Yeah.
a million times.
But then there's
so-
also nothing wrong with watching them again.
That's true. I love
Mhm.
watching them all the time.
Yeah,
Watch
Watch
Um,
them
it's pretty
twice.
It's not like we're having to watch something like Barbarella or
Wait a minute, that's a low blow.
something like that over again.
You have to bring
But,
up Barbarella
yeah.
just because I failed.
So yeah, there was
I'm-
the original trilogy from 1977 to 1983, and then
Mhm.
there was like a droids and cartoon, and there was a couple of Ewoks TV movies that
Yeah,
you
we're
don't
not
have
going
to worry about.
Not gonna worry about
Ooh,
those.
okay.
We're not going to go into those. Although I have a friend I used to work with out in LA who insists that they count as Star Wars movies. And but and then in the mid to late 90s, George Lucas said, "All right, I'm going to do special editions," where he went through the original trilogy and sort of beefed up some CGI in the background and stuff, and then added in some deleted scenes and changed a couple things here and there to
Mhm.
middling effect. Like souping up the background images
Yeah.
and making the look better was great, but there's a couple of scenes he put in there that
We're probably cut for a reason.
yeah
And we'll tell you about some of those things and some nuances of things that are like, okay,
yeah
Yeah.
we didn't see
But-
that as kids, but we saw it.
Yeah.
You know.
So
But
those
we'll get
came
into
out
that.
and
So-
they were hugely successful, and then the prequels followed after that, and so on.
Well, Carrington, we're excited to have you with us on this journey. We'll all
Woo.
we'll go our separate ways. Our assignment for all of us is to watch Star Wars: A New Hope, Episode 4. Make sure you're watching the right
Episode
one,
4.
Carrington. Yeah,
Okay.
and then we will come back after you've seen it to get all of your and write down your questions. Any questions you have for us? Any
Mhm.
just any notes you think about it, what you thought of it. We're gonna go through the story. We don't have to like rehash the whole story, but just like I want to see what you
Yeah.
thought and what you liked and what you didn't like and what worked and what didn't work and any questions we might have, and then we'll come back here and we'll schedule that. So I have this schedule that's reoccurring every 2 weeks. So
Okay.
if 2 weeks from now you can't, I don't know what the date is. So
Oh,
20,
I'll probably watch it tonight
24th.
if I'm being
Oh,
honest.
okay. Wow.
I've been
Okay.
waiting.
Wow, so we have time. So you can probably watch it a couple times. This is cool, exciting. Yes. Okay. So between now and 2 weeks from now, if something comes up, you're like, oh, I can't do it that Monday or whatever. So we just try to record on Monday. So let us know. And you guys too, obviously, let us know. But we'll also let TBJ know that's what we're gonna do. So if she can make it, we'll hopefully have her on too. But okay, anything else anybody wants to say about Star Wars or
I just
Any
want to
comments?
also say that the Star Wars universe it's ever expanding.
Mhm.
You know, we failed to mention that there's Star Killer. And Star Killer. Star Killer was
wait, should
Um,
we tell her this after she sees
probably.
first one?
Well, I just want to put out there Star Killer
Yeah.
and Cal Kestis are video game Star Wars characters
Okay.
who have slowly started to, especially Cal Kestis, but they slowly started to creep into.
I don't know what that is.
I thought Star Killer was
Cal
originally in one
Kestis
of the
is the name.
books.
I believe he's in the book. I think he's in one of the books as well.
Yeah, he was
But
one of the books.
Cal
Wait, but I think
Kestis is in Joe's universe. Cal Kestis would probably be also a part of the DC universe because the actor who plays Cal Kestis also played the Joker in Gotham.
Ah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the Deborah Joe
That's-
Ruppaverse. We'll get to that.
Right.
No,
right.
it's just Joe has this dumb idea that every character any actor has ever played is all technically part of the same universe and same
Same universe.
storyline.
And they're the same person. They just changed their
Yeah.
names.
So-
for
And
what
one
is-
thing,
So
one thing
the
we
guy
have
from
to
10 Things I Hate About You, Heath Ledger, eventually becomes the Joker.
Yes. And I will explain
Wait,
why.
actually, that I could see it, maybe, possibly.
And it's a game that I play in my head that will someday a podcast. We're gonna take actor by actor, starting with Deborah Joe Rupp, and we're gonna explain how that person can possibly be all these people. So,
But here, this is what I'm thinking. All of your podcasts, history for jerks, all of that. You know, depending on how many other podcasts come out of the History for Jerks umbrella,
yeah,
everything, like at some point, Deborah Joe Rupp is going to have a footing in all of it. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
such and such, Deborah Joe Rupp's here. She's also there. You know, she was in this with that person who's in this show we're talking about.
yes,
You know, and on American Top, somewhere she's gonna pop up. She's gonna be
yeah, she should
you
be
know,
the new Kevin
that's-
Bacon.
yes.
You know, this
Yes.
is off topic, but there's a game that's very similar to what you guys are talking about, sort of like Wordle or something, where you connect actors to like the characters they play and the characters they play to like a different show. So I'll try to figure out what game that is and let you guys know because I think you guys would like
Is
it.
it like a board game?
No, it's like something you can play online. My boyfriend loves it, but
Oh.
you just like connect. So like, how does Chadwick Boseman relate to the Hunger Games? You just
Yeah.
sort of
So and so
connect
is in this
actors
with this
to
person. Yeah, we
yeah.
used to do that in
so he's this with
college.
that and this and this, yeah.
Before the internet existed in college, we would the internet was for us going to Denny's, a diner, until
Well,
3 in the morning and playing that game.
In my
So
defense,
yeah,
and this is how I can deny everything. When I started college, we had the internet.
what?
So yeah.
It just started when we were. I remember email
Like
being a
news
thing
groups.
just as I was a freshman. Yeah,
You probably went to college before I did.
I'm sure I did.
As I was
92.
I'm an artist, so I went out into the world and I was like, I'm going to experience life outside of academia.
So we went to Woolworths.
I'm too fucking smart. But listen, from that, it's one of those things where you know I tried to get away from it, but I got pulled back in because someone placed a thought in my head because they saw me drawing. They said, "Oh, my friend, she went to school for graphic design, blah, blah, blah. You draw really good. You should go to school." And like, you know what? I never thought of that. You know? I even had this one girl, she had just graduated. She like, "You go to college?" I was like, "No." She's like, "What you waiting for?" I was like, "I don't know." You know what I'm saying? It's like I spent so much time in school, I was too smart for school. So I'm
Yeah.
like, why should I go to school? So I went out into the world. I experienced the workforce. And then I said, you know what? I can do this. I can do that. I'm going to school. School is
See,
cool.
And
when
now
I started school,
you're a certified artist. Yeah, art's the best.
We have internet. We had internet.
You have the
Sorry,
internet.
when I
guys.
started school, if you didn't have internet, you couldn't do school. So
Yeah,
Yeah, but anyway, we played that game at Denny's where you'd name 2 actors and you'd have to try to see who
Connect
could
them,
connect
yeah.
them faster. Like, oh yeah,
yeah,
Rupp was in that 70s show with Mila
blah,
Kunis.
blah, blah.
Who's in blah blah
Mhm.
blah 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 blah. But there was also the Kevin Bacon game where you had to get everybody back to Kevin Bacon. So, yeah, that's kind of thing. So we like that. We're in love with that, and that's what. Why not do a podcast about that? Similar to that, except justify why
Podcast
everybody
focus.
like how Al Pacino is the same character in every single thing, every
Mhm.
character he plays. It could happen. Time travel, witness protection program,
Mhm.
multiverse adds to it.
aliens.
Aliens.
No,
there's all kinds of-
multiverse breaks that, doesn't it? They're not the same character if they're in an alternate universe of that character, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Ooh.
Multiverse does ruin it. Good point. We got to.
can't
Yeah,
do
we'll come
multiverse.
up with these
Crush and
rules.
dreams.
And then my plan is to have 800 spin-off podcasts and just
Yeah.
have a million of them, and then I'll just have to assign it to other people. Like I will go to work and be like, "Excuse me, Mark and
person I work with.
and Thina. Sorry, Mark and Thina. I know you guys don't know each other, but you are now doing a podcast about Harvey Keitel.
Whippleman.
Yeah,
Harvey Whippleman.
Harvey Whippleman and why ever, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to do a Greg the Hammer Valentine podcast now. Whatever it is. But anyway, so all right, Carrington, you have your assignment. We're gonna come back here in 2 weeks and record a follow-up after we've all watched A New Hope, and we're gonna talk about it with Carrington. Thanks for being here, Nerd School listeners. And we told you we'd eventually branch out to Star Wars because it's a big nerd thing we got to do.
Yep.
And Art's
Then
gonna
we got to figure out how we're gonna do Star Trek.
Oh god, I did start watching Star Trek recently. The old ones are on.
Yeah.
And I just rediscovered the pilot. Captain Kirk's not in the first episode.
No, he's not.
Oh man, I did some
And
nerd
then
thing I didn't
later
know.
they sort of re-edit the pilot and make a different story out of it.
Oh.
I said if we start a Star Trek, we start with the Chris Pine Star Trek first.
No,
and work our way,
No.
Can't
and
do
work
that.
our way
Start with the
backwards.
one Black Mirror episode that's based on Star Trek.
I'd say we start
Black
with the
Mirror is
Kobayashi Maru episode.
Is Kobayashi the guy who ate all the hot dogs?
No, isn't that the Pete Postlethwaite character from Usual Suspects?
You guys don't know what Kobayashi Maru is?
I know what it is, but
Kobayashi's
there's
the hot dog guy.
there's not really an episode in the original series about that. It's just a reference of something he did. But yeah, well, we're not talking about Star Trek. We're talking about Star
Yeah,
Wars.
As
That's
you
too
can
much.
see, Carrington, we are very easily distracted, and we normally embrace the tangent. and
Oh,
go
piece of
off.
candy.
Yeah. So
I
and-
will try to dig up the my DVDs of the original unspecial edition versions, which apparently George Lucas
Is
didn't think anyone would
unspecial
want
a
to see
word?
anymore.
Yeah, if you can find them, Andy, give one to Carrington, and then also rent her a DVD player.
Yeah.
I might have an extra DVD player laying around here somewhere that we're not using anymore. But
Andy's a hoarder, so he hoards DVD players. Okay,
I love
is this
good
like
DVD.
what you got a DVD player, even if you don't use it, you're like, this
Mhm.
plays DVDs. I got a lot of DVDs. I need to have one of these.
we're
Yeah.
gonna watch them. Yeah. Well, and
Hey,
then another,
now.
yeah, right now is when you watch them.
Now I'll go figure it out.
Carrington's right.
Yeah.
So thanks for doing this with us, Carrington. You're a brave
Thank you very much.
person
Of
for.
course.
Being
And thanks
willing to
for
do this.
waiting until now, until after this. to
Yes,
start.
thanks for
You're
thanks for
fine.
thanks for waiting so we can have good content for History for the Jerks, History for Jerks Nerd School. And tradition we have is Art sings us out normally. So hit it, Art.
Touching you, touching me, reaching out.
Mm.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You're not
You could
getting
do
me to
it.
do this. yo.
Carrington,
doing
you
the
want
full
to
news
sing?
alignment?
I do not.
Are we
'cause
singing Sweet Caroline? Like,
Yes. Sweet Carrington.
Guys, you guys cannot spoil me.
There we
Can't
go.
spoil me because
no one-
TBJ would not join in if we did that.
Nerd School Podcast. History for Jerks.
They say I can't rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end it racism.
Nerd School Podcast by History for Jerks.